So, today we're diving into something really fascinating, a fictional lost notebook. It's this incredible piece of writing that imagines the dark, formative, and honestly, the completely transformative journey of a young artist, an artist on his way to becoming one of the greatest, and for sure, one of the most controversial poets in history.
Okay, this line right here, this is the last thing you can read in the notebook, and it's exactly where we need to begin. Because this single, totally chilling phrase, it just captures the entire spirit of the journey we're about to follow. It's a journey that doesn't just look at darkness, it walks right into it, and finds something strange and profoundly beautiful there.
Right, so just to be super clear, this isn't a straight-up biography. Think of it more as an imaginative reconstruction, kind of like a spiritual case study. The real question here isn't just, so what happened to him? It's more like, how on earth did he learn to see the world in this radical, unsettling new way? This whole thing is really an apprenticeship in learning how to fall.
And our story kicks off with a sea voyage. Our young narrator's family is completely desperate. They want to cure him of his poetry, his rebellious attitude, so they force him onto a ship headed for India. The hope is that this trip will turn him into a respectable man. Yeah, instead, it proves to him that he's anything but.
This is where he learns his first huge lesson. Out there on the ocean, he gets obsessed with the horizon. But he doesn't see it as a place he can get to. To him, it's a kind of cruel philosophical joke, a promise that only exists to be a promise, always moving away as you get closer. And he has this breakthrough. Maybe life isn't about arriving anywhere. Maybe it's all about the endless, impossible chase itself.
So, the ship eventually docks in Mauritius, what people called a tropical paradise. And it's here, so far from the fancy salons of Paris, that his entire worldview gets violently snapped into focus. He has two encounters that are going to teach him everything he needs to know about what beauty really is.
And these lessons are brutal. First, he's in the stunning botanical garden, but he doesn't see a paradise. He sees violence. He sees a prison filled with exiled plants, all conquered and perfectly arranged for someone else's pleasure. Then, he meets a Creole woman, a descendant of slaves, and looking at her, he realizes that beauty and horror, they're not opposites, they're collaborators. They're the same devastating substance.
This is how he sums up that encounter's impact on him. And it wasn't about romance or seduction, not at all. It was about recognition. She showed him that the world was built on exploitation, and you simply couldn't separate the beautiful things from the suffering that made them possible. She gave him the permission to just stop pretending, to stop protecting an innocence that was never really there to begin with.
So he goes back to Paris. And he isn't cured, not even close. He's been radicalized. He's old enough now to get a massive inheritance, but instead of settling down and building a respectable life, he does something else entirely. He designs his own curriculum, a deliberate, methodical education in damnation.
And this is what he had to work with, 100,000 francs. I mean, you have to understand, that was an enormous fortune back then. It was enough to live comfortably for your entire life. His family saw it as the foundation for a good, solid future. His saw it as fuel for a massive fire.
Just look at this. In only 2 years, half of it is gone. But here's the crucial thing. This wasn't just some rich kid being reckless. The narrator describes it as a conscious strategy, almost a ritual. Every single franc he spent was like a declaration of independence from the safe, boring world he hated. He was systematically destroying his own safety net, on purpose.
And this was his syllabus. First up, dandyism. The art of treating your own life, your clothes, your whole being as a work of art, a total defiance of conformity. Second, his wild, toxic relationship with Jeanne Duval, an actress who became both his muse and his tormentor. And third, his experiments with hashish, which he treated not as an escape, but as research into what he called artificial paradise.
You know, his relationship with Jeanne Duval was really the heart of this whole education. He doesn't describe her like a romantic lover. He talks about her like an obsession, an addiction. To him, she was the living, breathing proof of the lesson he learned back in Mauritius, that beauty and cruelty, desire and disgust, they are totally inseparable. And this question is what drove his experiments with drugs. See, the hashish would give him this glimpse of eternity, of an infinite, boundless consciousness, but then it would fade and slam him right back into what he called the prison of the self. So the drugs weren't the answer, they were a tool that helped him find the real question, which was this: once you've seen a vision of the infinite, how can you possibly stand being trapped in your own small, isolated mind?
So his apprenticeship is finally complete. He's got his philosophy, he's got his vision. Now, the mature artist turns his gaze outward. He takes everything he's learned and uses it like a special lens to look at the modern city of Paris, documenting all the souls that were forgotten and tossed aside by progress. He starts painting portraits of the damned.
And what a cast of characters he finds. There's Celeste, a prostitute who reads social theory and sees her work as a brutal but honest economic transaction. There's Le Chiffonnier, the ragpicker, who literally sorts through the city's trash and finds its hidden truths. And then there's Valentin, a painter who's being driven mad trying to capture the pure, chaotic energy of the modern crowd on his canvas.
Celeste's personal motto is just incredible, mostly because it's the narrator's motto, too. She doesn't believe in reform. She has no hope for a better world. Her only active resistance, her only revenge against the whole system, is to see it with absolute clarity, without any lies or illusions.
And the Ragpicker gives us this absolutely profound line. He doesn't see himself as a garbage collector. No, he's an accountant of loss. He's the one tallying up everything the city wants to forget, torn up love letters, unpaid bills, the bones from a rich man's dinner. He's finding the city's secret history in its trash.
And this brings us to this amazing parallel. The narrator has a revelation. He and the ragpicker do the exact same job. One collects discarded things, the other collects discarded truths. Both of them are sifting through the refuse of modern life to create something valuable, to find meaning where nobody else would even think to look.
Okay, so we've had the voyage, the inheritance, the portraits of the damned. Where does this all lead? What's the final takeaway? What is the sum of this long, dark apprenticeship? Well, it all comes down to one thing. What is the purpose of art in a godless modern world?
The entire notebook really boils down to 4 hard-won truths. 1. Acknowledge the void. The abyss is real, there's no safety net. 2. Understand that beauty is horror. They're 2 sides of the same coin. 3. Know that every escape, whether it's drugs or love or whatever, is temporary. And finally, 4. The only honest response left is art. Art is the act of making something beautiful from the horror without ever pretending the horror isn't real.
And this is his final declaration. The education is complete. He's learned to live without illusions, to embrace the fall, to stare right into the abyss and not look away. His training is over. Now, his true life's work, creating the art that will testify to everything he's seen, can finally begin.
In the end, in a world where old religions seem to offer false comfort and politics just offers failed revolutions, the notebook's final conclusion is that art is the last bastion of honesty. It doesn't promise to save us, but it does promise to tell the truth about our condition, about our damnation.
And that leaves us with this final, really provocative question, doesn't it? If art is born from suffering and it finds its beauty in horror, is it actually a form of redemption? Or is it just a way to make our damnation more exquisite, more articulate, more beautiful? Is art an escape, or is it just a much prettier cage?